Medina Hoover.
Here. And will we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The chair will entertain a motion to enter closed session to discuss personnel issues, collective bargaining, and student discipline.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Ms. Coyle?
Yes.
Mr. Marin?
Yes.
Ms. Conover?
Yes.
Ms. Steckity?
Yes.
Mr. Avia?
Yes.
Ms. Hoover?
Yes.
We need like an order. Like whose turn is it?
Yeah.
Second.
Sorry.
we're returning from closed session and moving along on the agenda. We will move to approve of minutes. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the September 27th, 2022 regular meeting of the Board of Education as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The chair will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the closed session of the September 27th, 2022 regular meeting of the Board of Education as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we're going to move along. We don't have public comment today. We'll move to the consent agenda. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented. Personnel recommendations. Tarjma Jackson Jr., Westmont High School, Dean's Assistant. Dawn Marchese, Teaching Assistant. David Sandich, Westmont High School, Freshman Boys Basketball. Lucas Stanzik, Westmont High School, Freshman Baseball Coach. Michael Hatchell, Westmont Junior High School, Volunteer Wrestling Coach, and resignations. 2, approval of iBoss Security Contract. Motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Marin?
Yes.
Ms. Conover?
Yes.
Ms. Steckity?
Yes.
Mr. Avia?
Yes.
Ms. Hoover?
Yes.
Ms. Coyle?
Yes.
Moving along to information and discussion. The first is the athletic bus purchase.
So the high school has had the athletic bus since 2006, and lately it's been showing bad signs of decay, brake issues, engine issues. So the business office decided to look to see if we can purchase a bus or lease a bus and see which is fiscally responsible. So on the 23rd of September, we held a bid opening, and one bidder submitted a bid, and that is Central States Bus Sales, and they're actually the state contractor if we do decide to lease a bus. So currently, I just wanted to throw a discussion out there. Tonight, we're not approving any purchase or lease. I just wanted to share with the community and the board the steps that we took and to evaluate the 2 options of either purchasing or leasing a bus for either 3 to 5 years. If we do lease a bus 3 to 5 years, we have the option to purchase that lease bus at the end of the term for the depreciation value. So looking at the 2 options, Center States recommended to purchase the bus outright instead of leasing the bus at this time. Majority of districts are purchasing the bus just because of 1, interest rates, and 2, lead times. And just at this point, just purchase the bus. You don't have to deal with it after 3 to 5 years. You don't have to purchase again after that term. And plus, knowing the mileage that we're going to put on, it's not a lot of miles. So again, one option is buying the bus for $87,900, and then option 2 would either lease a bus for 3 years or lease a bus for 5 years.
Is it a new vehicle?
Brand new 2023 bus. All options will get the bus May or June of 2023.
All right, I see.
And the reason for that is because building on the bus starts in January.
Is there any reason tax-wise to choose one or the other option? Any tax breaks or?
No, it's just really cash flow, and you're paying up front or you're paying at the end of the term. That's really what it is. And then the interest rates. But usually, historically, it's been the lead times where individuals would go leasing the option. You know, it's lower rates, you get it quicker. But now it's neck and neck with lead times.
Right.
And the purchase amount would be, if say we leased, that's an additional cost on top of that total lease cost.
Yeah. And buying the bus, it also gives us a 3-year warranty. It also covers any, logo, coloring on the bus, all of that. So that's on top. That's the $87,900 covers everything. So again, tonight we're not going to be approve anything. I just wanted to show you and paint the picture of the options that we have. Either option was budgeted for this fiscal year.
But either options with the same company, correct?
Same company, same bus.
Right.
Yeah.
Quick question, how old's the bus that we have right now?
It's 2006.
Oh, wow. So more than 5 years old.
Correct. So what we're gonna do is to see how much we can get, if anything, to trade it in to Center State.
Yeah, I was actually asking the question just to get my brain around how long we expect the bus that we buy to last. Because if it's
So-
gonna last 5 years in one day, then this seems like a fairly no-brainer.
Right.
Yeah, and talking to Rainey in the high school, the miles that is put on the bus isn't a lot.
We are gonna change football conferences and end up driving a lot more.
Exactly. And now it's to the point, now the bus is in really bad shape where they can't, drive it a certain miles or a certain speed limit. So it's putting a strain on the high school. Sure. And both options, again, will be a 2023 bus, a 14-passenger, and the reason for the 14-passenger is because there's no CDL required for anything 14 and under.
That was going to bring me to my next question. Do we know who's asking to use or which groups are using this athletic bus?
So it really depends. So athletics, it also, band. So it really depends. But usually, right now, it's sporting events, but they're not going far with it. Sectionals, downstate. So, but the usage is not high right now.
Some of the clubs may use it,
Yeah.
for trips.
Yeah.
Because I know we mentioned that football conference, they couldn't utilize, it wouldn't be enough for them.
Right.
Correct.
The junior high uses it too, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
And their conference is really close around here for their games.
Yeah. So the cost is budgeted for this fiscal year. So at the next board meeting, I will be presenting the option.
All right.
I appreciate the due diligence. I know we talked about this in finance committee, where everybody's invited to come. Because now I got to slide that into every meeting. But we talked about, the potential for buying outright, seeing if we could get it any sooner, in any way possible. And this was great due diligence and a good bit of information for us. So I appreciate that, and we got to do what we got to do. So thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, we're going to move along to parent-teacher conferences.
So the board can remember, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the fall of 2020, we flipped to virtual parent-teacher conferences, and the immediate feedback was very positive from staff and from parents. And it's kind of interesting recently in conversations with some staff and some parents that now that we've had virtual conferences for a couple of times, that maybe the opportunity of face-to-face, some people would like that opportunity. Some like that, the flexibility possibly of doing hybrid or in person. And the way our schedule sets up, we do Thursday night conferences 5 to 9, and then Friday morning 8 to 11. That you could designate, Friday nights or Thursday nights are in person, and Friday mornings virtual. So it would be easy enough to do that. So what I'm proposing is that, for fall, we'll still do the virtual conferences, but then after those conferences, get some input from parents, from staff, seeing where people are, and if there is definitely a desire to move off of just 100% virtual, that then in the spring we can make that transition with conferences. So I'd like to get that feedback, bring it back to the board for your review, and then ultimately make a decision on how we want to proceed going forward.
To me, the idea of the hybrid makes a lot of sense.
Right.
I agree. For the opportunity, but
What's that?
I agree with having that opportunity for, having that option out there for parents to have, to make and help us with that decision. I think it's,
Yep.
Yeah, I appreciate the flexibility, right? We tweaked this real quickly, we got some great feedback. And now that we're coming out of it a little bit more, just realizing how does this work best, I for one am one of those parents that's like virtual all the way, you know, but I'm not everybody. And so
Right.
making something that works for everybody, and my kids aren't every student. There are students who need more, you know, face-to-face time. So I appreciate the flexibility and, you know, getting that stakeholder input.
Although there's one thing that does occur to me, and that is that just thinking through the logistics of what happens if it gets lopsided and the time allotted for one or the other isn't enough, and just think through how you might have to, in other words, if you have a
Right.
total of X number of hours, if you
Right.
divide it down the middle, that might be bad. If you divide it 25 and 75 in one way or the other, that might not work. So just be ready to flex the model
Right.
based
Yeah.
on what
Right.
people are wanting to do.
Yeah, we could do that.
Any other question or comments about teacher conferences? All right, we're moving to the calendar, the 2023-2024 calendar.
It's always shocking, I think, when seems like we're just through the first quarter of the school year, we're already looking at the next school year. But the calendar committee has met, and they came up with two options for the 23-24 school year. This is for the board review, and then it'll be presented again at the October 25th meeting for the adoption of one of these options. And the calendars are similar. Option A has the opening day of the school year, August 21st. That would be Teacher Institute. And for students, the August 23rd. And then the last day of attendance would be May 30th. Option B is a similar start what we've had the last couple of years. August 15th would be the opening institute, with student attendance being August 17th. And the last day of school would be May 23rd, and that's without the use of emergency days. And the only other difference between the two is option A has an institute day on January 8th, and option B, April 17th. Part of the thinking there with the April institute day is that typically we have our spring break at the end of March, and then around the Easter holiday, we have the Friday before Good Friday, and then that Monday after off. So 4-day weekend, and typically in April. Well, the Easter's early, and so it flows into the spring break, and so it does, from spring break then to the end of the year, does end up being a little long. And so by having Institute Day in April, it kind of breaks it up a little bit for the students and for the staff.
That little long just makes me think that all your school is really, really a good idea with all those breaks throughout the year, but that's just, you know.
So is there a reason option B, other than the Institute Day, is the option that's recommended? Because I mean, just from my parent lens, like, it's cooler in May,
Right.
the weather starts to get
Right.
warmer, and there's better weather at the end of August, and then we're sending kids back to
Right.
school, and it feels almost like summer's getting shorter and shorter because of that. And so, you know, when I first just looked at these, my parent lens was, oh, option A looks good because it gives the kids a little bit
Sure.
longer summer, and then they're, you know, in school through the end of May. But just wondering what
I think part of the thinking is, with the earlier start, you have, at the elementary level, they take the IAR exam in April, and then the high school takes SAT, that there's more contact days before those state assessments are given. And so it ends up being a few more days that the kids are in session before those assessments. So that's why option B.
got it.
So kind of on that, I was gonna ask the same thing, what's the thought, because it did, this year especially felt, because we went back a week earlier than all of our neighboring districts.
Yep.
Which affected a little bit of childcare at the beginning of summer for us, but in any event, who serves, or how is the calendar committee kind of created? Is there parent input? Does it make sense to have parent input? And you can tell me no. Just tell me why.
And, actually, the makeup of the committee is dictated by the WTA contract. So there is, in the contract, there's a 3.1 school calendar, and it says that it's 2 WTA members, 2 administrators, 1 WESPA, 1 WCMA, and 1 parent. Okay. And then in a perfect world, what happens is they meet a couple of times and they're talking about different possibilities, and those representatives go off and get input from other individuals. so that when the committee comes back together, they can relay, this is what I'm hearing about some of the things that we're talking about. So right now, it's the contract that dictates who's on the committee and how many.
Okay, and there is a parent on that committee
Yes,
that
there
is
is a parent
serving
on
it,
the committee,
okay. Okay.
So if option B is consistent with what we've done in the past, what are the potential advantages of option A?
Option A, similar to what Laura was saying, is that, it's a little bit later in August, and so the hottest part of the summer is the end of August. So as we're starting the school year, it's still pretty warm, and we're optimistic the HVAC will be corrected for the fall of 2023 for the junior high.
For the junior high.
We're still waiting to find out about the chillers, is it, Anthony?
Yep.
The
Yes.
chillers and the timeline for those. But if we get those in a timely fashion, then it's less of an issue, but it does end up being warmer. Typically, May is cooler, August is warmer.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
and just for pure
And then
family enjoyment.
The
was my-
elementary
was
buildings
my
are still a little
perspective
warm.
on it, like.
The elementary buildings are still a little warm, not as warm as the junior high.
Yeah.
But,
When I look at this, I mean, to me, the starting early or finishing early, whatever, in the end, it's the same number of days of school, and the difference is six calendar days. It's not. But there is a huge difference between the Institute Day, the dates of the Institute Day. So what are the pros and cons of the Institute Day being in January versus April? That's a world of difference.
Right.
And I know that January 8th is attractive because it's, everybody kind of transitions back into the start of the school year after the winter break. So that's why it's a little bit attractive. The April is attractive because, again, it's a long stretch from when spring break ends to the end of the school year. So it kind of breaks up all those weeks. So that's stretched a little bit. So that's why April 17th is attractive for that reason.
But could that be done in Schedule A? Okay.
So that January 8th gives us, it tacks on to winter break.
Right.
So it gives an extra day on to
So that
winter
would be
break.
the Monday after winter break, and the staff would start on January 8th, students would start January 9th.
And then my last question is, we're not voting on this tonight, this is a topic of conversation for tonight.
Right.
What will come before us for a vote?
So based upon feedback from the board, if you would like to see a hybrid, where option A has an April,
17th, for
and
example.
I'll bring this information back to the committee, they debrief, and then, they make a recommendation, but the board doesn't necessarily have to go with
Right.
the committee
Right.
recommendation.
From a process standpoint, this calendar committee is going to make a recommendation.
Historically, it's always been two, and then the board decides if, the motion is a motion to approve calendar, and then you guys fill in the letter.
I understand.
On the 25th.
I understand.
And so through our discussions and even as a possible straw poll to say which one goes into that blank,
Right.
and we'll go with, and then approve it.
So I did have one more question, and this came up over the course of the last year, talking about last year's calendar. So, last year's calendar, the holiday breaks were much more affected. It just so happens that we're kind of like back on
Right.
a bit of a normal track for the next
Right.
5 years or so, where, the holiday breaks are not as affected. But why do we start on Wednesday? Is that driven by the contract? And I just thought of this, like, why don't we start on a Monday? If we're talking about a potential of like split the difference, starting on like the Monday after
like the teachers start on that
19th or
Thursday.
something
16,
like that.
17,
19th.
18,
There-
20th,
Yeah,
right?
And there was, the feedback from the staff, like, we had one year where we started, like, the Institute Day would have been the 17th, which is a Wednesday. And so the teachers were, the Wednesday, Thursday, kids start on Friday. And the feedback was that wasn't, trying to get the students back to being acclimated to being back in school and the school day, that wasn't conducive to that, you know, to give them, they're in session Friday and then they're off for the weekend.
Yeah, agreed.
For the younger students, starting on a Wednesday, it takes them a little bit to build up their stamina. And so Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, especially the younger students, by Friday, they're dragging a little bit. So then they get a little bit of a break, and then you bring them back on Monday. So, you know, that's one of the reasons why they like the Monday start with the staff and the Wednesday with students.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
So back to the process real quick, I'm sorry about this. I don't know why I'm getting so stuck on this, but I'm just realizing like it's gonna come back and it's, is it possible that the calendar committee comes back with these two options and we say no to both of these? Right, then what happens?
Then what happens is I'd have to look at the language in the contract. The board needs to approve a contract, I think it's by November. I'll have to check.
Approve a calendar, not a contract.
Approve a calendar. If there's not a calendar approved, then the default is the ROE calendar. And I believe option B is the ROE.
What does ROE stand for?
Regional Office of Education.
Okay.
So the Regional Office of Education kind of floats out to school districts. Here's a possible calendar to consider. You're not obligated to do it because I think it was you, Carlos, that said students have to be in session 176 days. You know, so however you decide to do it, that's what you have to do. And so they kind of float that out. I think you're right, Leah. This past year, some schools start when we did. Some were starting after we did. You know, it was kind of for one of the first years. It was kind of a little bit different. Usually,
It was real wonky this summer.
Yeah. Usually, we're all pretty much on the same page, but this past year was a little bit kind of depending upon age of students and different things. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it was driven by the strange holidays.
Right.
I was gonna ask too, is that considered like, you know, every district is unique, but do calendar committee, do they consider like starting in the region, like to keep it kind of similar to,
I don't think they really look at.
as you look at daycares and summer programs?
No, I don't think they look at those things. I think it's more, you know, looking at, you know, what we've done in the past. Again, there's always a little bit of concern about how many days to get students ready for assessments, and so, and that's why I think you're seeing schools creep more and more into August because of that. Because they want to try to.
When did you say the assessments took place? What month? What time frame were the assessments?
April. The assessments are done.
Before April 17th?
I'd have to check the exact dates.
Because if there's okay, I'm assuming that they're before April 17th. Otherwise, why would you have an institute day right smack right before them? Right, that wouldn't make sense, would it?
No.
So I think, you know, when the calendar committee comes back, more information on why, right? And if it is, we want our kids to have 5 more days of instruction prior to assessment season, right? And this is, you know, ultimately like, and this helps our students do better on the testing in the high school, on the testing in the state, right?
Yeah.
Some more information,
some context.
right?
Context.
Just say it, right? Double down on it, because we're gonna do what's best for the students. But if there's not a reason, then it's harder to be like, okay, let's go back earlier when it's hotter. Truly,
Right.
like the air conditioning just falls on me very heavily. Like terrifies me that if it's not done and we've got these students back at August 15th and it's 98 degrees. We were lucky this past summer that it wasn't as hot as it typically is. So like, then, you know, just.
Yeah, and truly, if it's like, they're sort of, they just sort of roll the dice because they have to make a recommendation and one of them's like this much better than the other, then, you know, then let's hear that too, you know?
Yeah, give us the info. Why are you recommending B and and B, we like specifics, right? Because our constituency has constantly said they like specifics. So let's give them those specifics. What does this calendar do that this calendar does not? That's not just,
Sure.
when do I come back from vacation? Because truly, that's what our parents are looking at. When do I have to be back from vacation?
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
And how soon can I plan my vacation?
Exactly.
I'm waiting for that post. It's November 1st.
Yeah, we'll get that.
We'll get the first post. Have they
When's
done
school starting next
the
year?
calendar? Yeah.
Or the
Right.
breaks.
You know, which is great because people are planning ahead. But
course.
Right.
and that kind of I think that plays into the Wednesday start also, is because when you're planning like a week-long vacation, a lot of people are going to plan Monday to Friday, and not a midweek. So then they're like, oh, I've got to be back here, and you know. So, but more specifics.
Yeah,
What did
more
the two
context.
calendars do?
Yep, I will do that.
That's awesome.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Moving along to action items. Make sure there are no other questions or comments. All right. The chair will entertain a motion to authorize the chief business official to enter into future energy contracts through June 2023 for natural gas and electricity with Vanguard Energy Services as needed.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Ms. Conover?
Yes.
Ms. Steckity?
Yes.
Mr. Avia?
Yes.
Ms. Hoover?
Yes.
Ms. Coyle?
Yes.
Mr. Marin?
Yes.
Number 2, approval of resolution to permanently transfer funds from the O&M fund to capital projects fund. The chair would,
Oh, sorry.
is there a question? It's-
no.
and that's fine. Okay. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the resolution permanently transferring $5,706,452.80 from the Operations and Maintenance Fund to the Capital Projects Fund as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call?
Ms. Steckity?
Yes.
Mr. Avia?
Yes.
Ms. Hoover?
Yes.
Ms. Coyle?
Yes.
Mr. Marin?
Yes.
Ms. Conover?
Yes.
Motions passes. 3, authorization for submission of the State of Illinois fiscal year 2023 school maintenance grant. The chair will entertain a motion to authorize the submission of the State of Illinois fiscal year 23 school maintenance project grant application as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call?
Mr. Avia?
Yes.
Ms. Hoover?
Yes.
Ms. Coyle?
Yes.
Mr. Marin?
Yes.
Ms. Conover?
Yes.
Ms. Steckity?
Yes.
Next is the superintendent's report.
So in my report, I mentioned parent-teacher conferences a little bit earlier. Our fall conferences will take place October 20th from 5 o'clock p.m. to 9 o'clock p.m. and October 21st from 8 o'clock a.m. to 11 o'clock a.m. Parents can now register for an appointment through Skyward until October 19th at 4 o'clock p.m. After that time, they're still able to call and make appointments if necessary. Conferences will be conducted virtually, and parents will receive a link for their appointment from their child's teacher. And this year, it's going to be Google's Meet. It's been Zoom, but Google's Meet, that's something we already subscribe to and we can do. Zoom is no longer a free option, and so we're doing Google's Meet. It'll operate very similar to what the parents have experienced with Zoom.
All right, anything
That's it?
else?
Yep.
Okay, we'll move along to board reports.
Are we allowed to report on the crossing guard situation?
Sure. Can I mention it?
I don't think we mentioned it because
One of the personnel hires the board did was a dean's assistant at the high school. The crossing at Burlington and Cass, there was a crossing guard there who has been injured, and so the Westmont Police Department has been very good about helping us out whenever they've had a conflict. Anthony Riley, our school business manager, or Joe Smith, our director of building and grounds, has filled in. And so the dean's assistant will be handling the crossing for before and after school until the regular crossing guard is able to return to their duties.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. And I know that it is a real confusing situation. I don't know that I always have a great handle on the crossing guard situation, like because how much Westmont pays for, because the crossing guards are for the whole or the whole village, and we don't cover the whole village, and all of those pieces, and adding extra crossing guards, we talked about that last year, was gonna fall on us, even if we could hire them, and all of it. It was just a very complicated situation for what feels like a very easy fix, but you guys have gotten, thoughtful and done something, innovative in how to help support what is a really busy, dangerous crossing. Even if there's not a lot of kids who do cross there, it is a dangerous crossing. So, thank you guys for, kind of
Thank you.
innovating, figuring out a way to support it.
Solutions more than complaints. I also wanted to extend a congratulations to the Westmont High School, and one of the first one was Westmont High School Band and the Westmont Junior High School Band. Just shouts out to the band directors, Ms. Biederman, Mr. Kaprowski, like they were amazing. And I remember back joining the board and hearing how the band and music program suffered, and just see that the promise of what's coming. I wanted to say they did an amazing job, and I enjoyed them and enjoyed the tribute for our anniversary. So, job well done, and great effort to our football team. I'm always amazed by our students and their heart that they give to play in sports in Westmont. And it may not be the outcome that you like, but to see them go out and try and work at it. And it's hard, but they were out there working and trying and playing for their team and their school and their district. So thank you to them.
I wanted to just quick say, sort of building on that, Adina, I don't know if for folks who were at the game on Friday, the fireworks display afterwards was simply incredible. And if the public and other board members aren't aware, that is sponsored by a local family. So Melanie Schutte and her husband Jim, their daughters are just, one of them just entered the high school, and I guess they've done this every year. They've had a kid enter the high school. It was an amazing display, and I think that's such an incredible thing for a parent to donate as a fun experience, and I just wanted to say a shout out to them, thanking them for that.
We
Thank you.
do have a lot of great parents in town.
We do.
Just want to build on that. It's not everybody's thing. You don't have to give your time, but we do have a lot of parents that do volunteer their time, whether it be the concessions, and there's people in the community who aren't parents that come and help at the games and all that stuff. So we do have a great community.
We sure do.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Anything else? Yay. No. All right. There's no other public comment. Moving to future meetings and events. Westmont High School Jazz Cafe, October 12th, 7 p.m. Westmont High School Comments. Elementary Reading Night and Book Fairs, October 13th, 6 p.m. There's the Parent-Teacher Conference, as mentioned, on October 20th and October 21st. And the CUSD 201 next board meeting will be October 25th at 6 p.m. I just have a question. I don't know if please look out to your PTOs. I think there are other events even at the school organizations that they're doing fundraising. I think kids are working on many. I don't have those particular dates. I apologize.
Junior high PTO meeting is Wednesday, 7 o'clock. And I know the boosters at the high school. That's that trunk or treat.
Yes,
Trunk or treat is Friday. Anybody else have trunks and candy to donate at the junior high? Trunk or treat is Friday. That's all I can think of.
Think there's
Thursday is
something else.
book fair at the
Thursday's
elementary.
book fair. Reading night, she put that.
Reading night, book fair. Yeah, okay.
What is Jazz Cafe exactly?
The students in the jazz band, they play either as a whole group or, sometimes smaller groups. And it's in the Commons, and they usually serve cookies and punch, and you can just sit at the tables, and there's some vocalists as well.
Okay,
So you can just listen to the students perform.
got it. Thank you.
And I know there's, is it a Volley for a Cure? I don't have the date. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, there's 2 of them in the next
October
week.
13th
Yes.
is the high school
Yes.
volleyball, 5:30.
And then
Doing
there's
the
the special
football.
events with the village, with the fire, the police,
I don't know.
for Special Olympics. That's the 19th, I believe.
We'll try to get it listed.
Amping up into the end of the year.
That's, again, our students aim to please, so they're doing a number of things. All right. We don't need to enter in closed session, correct?
Nope.
All right. The chair will entertain a motion to adjourn the October 11, 2022 regular meeting of the Board of Education.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.